Welcome everybody to another shocking courtroom episode of Lockdown 23 in 1. That's right, today we're going to be jumping into a Kentucky courtroom to witness the preliminary hearing for a former sheriff accused of killing a judge inside of his own chambers. And believe it or not, the sheriff and the judge were longtime friends and co-workers. So how could something like this possibly happen? Well, like I said, we're going to witness a preliminary hearing. Some detectives are going to take the stand, and I think we're going to gather enough information to come up with our own motive. So let's get into it. If you enjoy all things lockup and crime related, then this is where you want to be. Hit that like, subscribe, notification bell before you leave, and check out my playlist with many more videos for you to start watching today.
Court's now in session with the Honorable Rupert Billoy.
Thank you, sir. You may be seated. I'm going to call the case of Commonwealth versus Sean Steins, 24F-147, on for preliminary hearing. Is the Commonwealth ready?
Yes, Your Honor.
Is the defense ready?
Yes, Your Honor.
All right, call your first witness.
Commonwealth's Clayton Stamper.
All right, click. Mr. Stamper, if you would.
Now, I hate to stop it so soon, but I heard something that I'm very familiar with. I did all my time and went in and out the court system inside of Virginia, and Virginia is a Commonwealth state as well. But just so you know, instead of prosecution or district attorney, they're called the Commonwealth's attorney. Same concept, just a different name. Well, we got the detective here taking the stand.
You state your name correctly?
Clayton Stamper,
And how you spell your name?
Clayton Stamper.
Tell the court how you're employed?
I'm sorry.
How are you employed?
I'm a detective with the Kentucky State Police assigned to Post 13 Hazard.
How long have you been employed in that capacity?
I've been with KSP a little over 24 years, detective since 2006.
And have you, in the performance of your duties as detective with the Kentucky State Police, have you investigated the death of Kevin Mullins?
Yes, sir, I did.
Can you tell us on what date that was?
It was September 19th, 2024.
In investigation of that death, were you able to determine who killed Kevin Mullins?
Yes.
And how were you able to do that?
Video surveillance footage.
And did you retrieve that video surveillance footage?
I did.
You're at this time, the company to play video footage.
All right.
Now, they're about to show the surveillance video of the sheriff killing the judge, and y'all know I can't be showing no violence on my channel. So I'll leave the original clip linked in the description below if you want to go run it back yourself. But I will say this, it's treacherous.
That was a short clip that was played there. How long do you believe that clip was?
That we just watched?
Yes, sir.
Just 10 seconds, 15 seconds.
10 or 15 seconds. In fact, the video that was taken in the judge's chambers between the meeting between Sheriff Steins and Judge Mullins, it's my understanding that video lasted much longer, correct?
Yes,
Okay. And have you had an opportunity to review the video
I have.
of the prior incident?
I have.
And can you describe for us what happened immediately prior to the clip that we saw?
Sheriff Steins uses his telephone to make some phone calls. He then borrows Judge Mullins' cell phone and appears to make a call on that. And that led to what you just saw.
Okay. So it's my understanding there were some people who were having a meeting with Judge Mullins prior to the sheriff's entry into the chambers. Is that correct?
Yes.
Have you identified those witnesses?
I don't know the names of them. There's about approximately 4 people in there. Then Sheriff Steins enters the judge's chambers and everybody else clears out.
You don't know their names?
Not right off, no.
Have you prepared a report that
In the process, yes.
You're in the process of preparing a report,
Yes, a lot of information.
but you've not spoken to any of those witnesses?
I've not directly, but they've all been interviewed. There's recorded interviews of those people in the case.
Okay, so other officers have spoken with those 4 witnesses?
Yes.
And what is your understanding of what those 4 witnesses have said?
I don't recall.
You have no idea what they said?
No.
The sheriff had a personal issue with the judge and the judge only. There was people inside the chambers before the sheriff came in. If I were to guess, he probably came in and told them to leave. I need to speak to the judge personally. And of course, them knowing how much of a history they have, they're going to listen to him and not think twice about it. But then the detective says in the video, it also shows the sheriff grabbing the judge's phone, making a phone call, then making a phone call from his phone, and immediately after ends up shooting the judge. That means to me that he heard or seen something on those phones that triggered him.
I want to make sure I understand, had there been a hearing previously this day in chambers?
In the courtroom?
No, in chambers.
Not that I'm aware of.
Okay. And so there's a video camera that is running in the district judge's chambers. Is that on all the time?
It's my understanding, yes.
And have you spoken with anyone about why that may be?
No. I mean, there's cameras throughout the courthouse.
Well, fair enough, but are you familiar with district judges' chambers normally, how they're set up?
No. I mean, some of them have video surveillance and some don't.
Right, but
This one does.
generally when they have surveillance, you agree with me that that is utilized when there is a proceeding going on in chambers, correct?
It could be, yes.
Okay. And I mean, I'm just asking, so this video didn't have an audio recording to it, correct?
No, there's no audio.
Outside of once the four people that were inside, that we don't know their names, once these four people had left the chambers, were they in an area adjacent where they could hear anything that was going on?
Yes, I believe some of them did remain in the next room.
Okay. And what did they tell us?
Do what?
What did they hear?
I've not been part, I wasn't part of those interviews.
Okay, so if I'm understanding correctly, you're prepared for a preliminary hearing on a murder, and there are witnesses in an adjacent room.
I mean, they heard
Can I put
gunshots.
my question, please?
Yeah, please ask the question.
Thank you, officer. So you are investigating a murder and testifying in a preliminary hearing, and there are witnesses who may have overheard what preceded this edited clip, yet you can't tell us today anything that they said?
I've not personally listened to those interviews. I've talked to the other officers that did those interviews.
Fair enough, and I mean, we're here at a preliminary hearing, as you know, that you can testify to hearsay. I'm asking you what they said.
They heard gunshots.
Okay, was there any statements that they overheard?
No.
Were there raised voices?
One person stated that she didn't recognize him as being Judge Mullins' voice, but heard somebody say, "Help, help."
She didn't recognize it being Judge Mullins' voice. Probably because when you're severely injured and you know you're about to die and you scream that last scream of help, it's a different kind of tone.
Is there any testimony that you can give us today about any statements or arguments or the content of that argument prior to the shooting?
Yeah. Here we go.
Okay.
Nothing. Nothing? What kind of preliminary is this? Give us something, man.
I want to ask generally, so did you process the scene? Are you the lead investigator on this case?
I am.
Okay, so as a lead investigator, I would presume that you would have secured the chambers and evidence once you arrived.
I was part of that, yes.
You were part of it, right? But you're the lead investigator, so you'd be in charge of those duties and delegating what should be done. Is that
No.
fair?
No, I don't delegate what's done.
Okay, so you're the lead investigator. What does that mean?
I'm the case officer.
Okay, so you're carrying the case. So I want to make sure I understand. Had Judge Mullins been removed from chambers when you arrived?
No,
Were you able to ascertain, did he have a firearm on his person?
we did not locate one.
You did not locate one?
No, there was not one in the chambers.
Okay. And there was none on his person?
No.
Okay. All right, who was the first person to arrive on behalf of law enforcement to investigate?
They were already in the courthouse.
Fair enough, but I'm talking about in terms of people that we may see a report from or take part in this investigation. Who would be the first person?
I believe Trooper Jason Bates was the first KSP personnel on scene.
And you spoke with him
I did.
and he searched and did not locate a firearm?
No, he didn't search the scene, no.
You
His
just-
role,
Sure.
his role at that point was security of the scene.
I understand, but I'm just trying to ascertain, you said earlier that there was no firearm found.
No.
I'm wanting to know, can you tell us, was it specifically searched for a firearm?
In the judge's chambers,
Yes, sir.
there was myself, Detective Chris Collins, Detective Scott Caudle, Detective Eric Caldwell. That's all I recall right now.
Okay, but I'm trying to understand, so who searched specifically for a firearm?
We all did.
And that was specifically something you looked for?
Yes.
Fair enough, okay.
Lee, it's like squeezing I don't even know how the expression goes. Lemons from a lime tree or something? I can't remember, man. It's hard to get into this guy. Jeez, man. I feel like I know more about this situation. I wasn't even at the crime scene.
Of course, your investigation, did you ascertain that prior in the day, there had been a lunch meeting between Sheriff Steins and Judge Mullins?
There was.
Pardon?
There was.
Okay. Sorry, I couldn't hear your response. I wasn't being trite. So where did this take place?
It's a restaurant called Street Side, and it's just down the street from the courthouse.
Okay. And it's my understanding there were a couple of other people who attended the luncheon?
There were several, yes.
Okay. And at some point after that, they wrapped up lunch and left, obviously, and went back to the courthouse. Are you aware of anything so far in your investigation that would tell us there was any issues at lunch between Judge
No,
Mullins and Sheriff Steins?
no.
Okay. But someone on behalf of the KSP has spoken to those witnesses?
Yes, they've all been interviewed.
And there was nothing unusual that had arisen during that luncheon?
I was told that the judge made a statement to Mickey about, do we need to meet private in my chambers? That's all I was told.
Do you know the context of
I do
what
not.
the conversation was before that they would need to discuss in chambers?
I do not.
If I were to guess, whatever issue the sheriff had with the judge, he had it already at that launch. He might have been lacing out some subliminal messages that only the judge would understand, and that's probably when the judge said it's time to finish his lunch and maybe go talk about it in my chambers. And that's natural, especially for someone that doesn't want the truth getting out to everybody. They want to go talk about it in private, try to see if they can keep shit under wraps. I don't know, just my guess.
So it's my understanding that in the larger portion of the video that we haven't had access to, that there is a point when Sheriff Steins asked for to see the telephone of Judge Mullins.
Yes.
Is that a yes? I mean,
Yes.
yes, okay. And I would presume that you and the other officers you mentioned, when you secured the scene, that you secured those phones as well. Is that correct?
Yes.
And have you reviewed both of those phones?
They're currently at the forensic lab at this time being downloaded. I have had discussions with the people at the lab regarding the downloads.
And those are a couple of other questions that I was going to ask you, but my original question was, have you reviewed or are you aware of the content of the phones?
I've not personally seen it because I've not received those reports yet.
Okay, again, based upon your conversations with the officers, are you aware of any recent content that was up and could have been relevant at the time of their discussion?
I was told that Sheriff Steins had tried to call his daughter, and he had tried to call his daughter from the judge's phone also.
So, have you obtained the phone records from Judge Mullins' phone?
I don't have those in my possession yet, no.
Okay, have you issued a search warrant for them?
Yes.
Okay. And have officers confirmed that the sheriff's daughter's phone number was on Judge Mullins' phone?
Yes.
Oh,
So that number had
man.
been called from Judge Mullins' phone.
Yes.
Is that correct?
Yes.
Okay.
Well, it's all starting to come together now, isn't it? And if I'm wrong, then I guess I'm a fool. But if I were to guess, the sheriff is assuming that the judge is having some kind of inappropriate relations with his daughter. Why else would the sheriff try calling his daughter from the judge's chambers while he's having this heated discussion? And I understand that the judge and sheriff are longtime friends and co-workers, but why would the judge have the sheriff's daughter's number in his phone? That's creepy, man. Everything about this is just weird. Not to mention the lawsuits. I haven't even began to mention that. There was a lot of shady stuff going on in this county, and I think it's all going to come to the light. But one thing's for sure and two things for certain. If a judge had my daughter's number in his phone and he wasn't supposed to, there was no reason at all, who knows what I would have done. And let me just say this, by the way everything's going, if you're to ask me, if I were to bet it all, the sheriff is going to get a sweet deal because it's going to be a crime of passion. That's right. That's my guess. You're hearing it here first. And look, it's perfect setup for a crime of passion if it was something related to his daughter. Because immediately after the phone call, he kills the judge off of raw emotion, if I were to guess. Look, and that's like the key to it. Immediate reaction to an emotional situation. I don't know, but that's a picture that I'm painting so far. Let me know if y'all are concurring with me or not. But once again, it's very, very strange for the judge to have the sheriff's daughter's number in his phone. Very strange.
So we don't have a viewing of what transpired during that exchange of phones. But based upon your review of those moments prior to, when Sheriff Steins observes that cell phone, was he previously seated?
Yes.
Okay, so in the clip we saw, he was standing the entire time.
He was seated in front of the judge's desk.
And he looks at the cell phone. Can you describe his reaction in the video that we haven't seen?
Oh,
His
yeah.
reaction.
Well, the sheriff.
This is key.
You can't see his face in the video.
Okay. But is it clear that, does it appear to you that, let me rephrase this. Did he stand up after
Yes.
looking at the phone?
He stood up.
And how long after he looked at the cell phone and stood up did this occur that you played?
Just seconds.
And that's going to be huge, like I said, for a crime of passion defense. He immediately, after seeing something in his phone, stood up and killed the judge.
Did you make the decision on edits today for what you were going to present? In terms of, did you make the edit or determine
No,
which portion of the video we were going to see today?
No, sir, I did not.
Both cell phones have been sent to the Kentucky State Police forensic
Yes.
team, is that correct?
Yes.
Have you gotten any early report on what was found?
No.
Were both phones still on the desk when you arrived?
The judge's phone was on the desk. Sheriff Stein's phone was on his person.
Okay, so are there photographs of, was the phone locked at that point or was it still open?
Both of you asking about both of them, or?
Well, first let's talk about, that's fair. First, I'm talking about Judge Mullins, since it was the one that was still on the desk and presumably, nobody touched it prior to you securing it, correct?
No.
So, yeah, so would like to know about that. Have you ascertained what was currently open on that cell phone?
No, I don't know at this point, no.
You don't know.
No.
Do you think that would be, important to learn?
Yes.
I hope to learn that when the report's ready, yes.
So you mean to tell me you didn't try opening that phone up at all? Man, if I was a detective, I would have been zooming through everything immediately before anybody got to it. I don't know the process, but my mind wouldn't have been able to take it. I gotta know what happened.
Did you conduct an interview with Sheriff Stein's daughter?
I did not, but she has been interviewed.
Are you aware of any, who was present when she was interviewed?
Lieutenant Randy Combs and Detective Anthony Trotter.
And she was interviewed with or without her parent?
With.
And law enforcement has not spoken to her without her parent present?
Not that I'm aware of.
Did the Kentucky State Police obtain her phone?
No.
Why not?
You intend to obtain records for her cell phone number?
Possibly, yes.
Do you believe that that will be soon that you'll do that?
Could be, yes.
Had you already intended to do that, or did you just respond to my question?
Well, the call should be on the judge's records too.
Well, I understand.
And
but-
she's made statements about what occurred during those conversations.
I understand that, but I would presume that, have you ascertained whether Judge Mullins also had apps that stand outside of phone records?
I've not received those records yet. I don't know what's on the
Well,
phone.
fair enough, but I mean, did you look at the phone? Did it appear there were apps on it?
I'm not the person that's qualified to look through the phone, but I don't know what's on the
Well,
phone.
fair enough, but I mean, did you look at the phone? Did it appear there were apps on it?
I'm not the person that's qualified to look through the phone.
Okay, but you're familiar with cell phones. They can host other forms of communication. Yes, sir.
What's the objection?
For them not to be going through the daughter's phone just because they're assuming that everything will be already on the judge's phone is ridiculous.
I'll let him ask the question, and what he can only testify what he has personal knowledge about.
Absolutely, yes, sir. Thank you.
There you go, Judge.
So you're aware that phones can be used for apps such as Facebook?
Yes.
Okay. And that is not something that is captured by cell phone records. You would agree with me?
I agree.
There you go.
So in light of that, although the records may be mutually the same, right, the same between Judge Mullins' phone and the sheriff's daughter, do you believe that you could also ascertain other information from the cell phone app content?
Yes.
Are you asking what apps are on the phone?
Oh my
Yes.
God.
Well, that was my original question.
I don't know
thought you did
I've not received that report yet.
know. If he has social media apps, do you intend to?
That could lead to additional search warrants, yes.
If you would, officer, please let me finish before you move forward, and I'll try to slow down a little bit as well, okay?
Sure.
Thank you, Trooper. Have you determined whether there were any previous issues, personal or professional, between Sheriff Steins and Judge Mullins?
I've heard things.
Or what have you heard?
Just that this regarding the lawsuit that the Letcher County Sheriff's Office is currently involved with.
Okay. The lawsuit that involved ultimately a criminal conviction of a deputy for sexual behavior in the judge's chambers, is that the one you're referring to?
Yes.
Okay, and the subject matter of that lawsuit, the chambers area, that's the same chambers in which this occurred, is that correct?
I'm not familiar with the details of that case that the lawsuit resulted from.
Okay. Are you aware of any criminal reports that Sheriff Steins had made of Judge Mullins prior to this day?
No.
All right, so let me give you a little background on this lawsuit thing. I touched into it a little bit in the beginning, but the sheriff had a deputy working under him, and this deputy was accused of having sexual relations with a defendant inside of the judge's chambers to help her stay out of jail and not pay fees and fines and stuff. You know, it's crazy. Not to mention there was a second person that was alleging this deputy of doing the same thing, but she has passed away.
Did you personally observe Sheriff Steins following this video?
Did I personally observe him? What?
Did you meet with him? Did you talk to him after?
He was in custody when I arrived at the courthouse that afternoon.
All right, and at some point, did you draw any observation about his demeanor?
He was mostly calm, I thought. I mean, I talked to him, but he didn't say nothing about why this had happened. But he was calm. He was kind of afraid that basically all he said was, "Treat me fair." That's basically the comments he made.
Okay. Did he also make a statement about, I didn't see it in the citation here, but somewhere along the line I saw a statement being attributed to him about protecting his family?
I wasn't present, but when he was taken into custody, I was told by one of the other officers that were there that he made the comment, "They're trying to kidnap my wife and kid."
What?
Now, have you ascertained any evidence that this shooting was pre-planned?
No,
Okay.
not at this time.
And would you agree that from what we've seen so far, from the evidence you've seen so far, the shooting was a reaction to what was on that cell phone in that moment? Is that accurate?
Objection, Your Honor. All speculation outside of his scope of expertise.
Your Honor, I believe that if he has formed an opinion about the investigation up to this point, especially at a preliminary hearing, he can speculate on that, Judge.
Or sustained.
Sure. So,
He sustained it.
is there anything other than the content of the phone that this video will reveal to us about why this took place?
No.
Does it appear that this took place as a reaction to what was happening in the chambers at that point?
I can say it occurred after a phone call was made. I don't know what was said or nothing like that, but
Fair enough, and I'm not asking you the content of any of that, but at this point, is it your theory that whatever that content was in the discussion was the impetus of the shooting?
it could be, but I don't know that for a fact.
Okay. Do you have any evidence up until this point that you have developed that would demonstrate that it was not as a reaction to what was on the phone?
No.
Good question.
None whatsoever?
No.
Okay.
Great question.
Just if I had just one moment to confer. Did you attempt to speak to Sheriff Steins at the Leslie County Jail after the incident?
No.
Did anyone from your agency attempt to interview him?
Not to my knowledge, no.
And at that point, had he asserted his right to an attorney or anything?
No.
But nobody went back to try to talk to him or do an interview?
No.
Okay. I think I have one other question. In addition to cell phones that we discussed, the cell phone of Sheriff Steins and the cell phone that you found of Judge Mullins, were there additional phones that you were able to obtain?
There was one other phone that's currently being examined, and the basic reason it was seized was there was a text conversation between Sheriff Steins and some of his employees with the sheriff's office.
Okay, and that was an additional phone of Sheriff Steins?
It was a phone of, I guess she's the I don't know what her title is, but she's employed. She's not sworn. She's employed by the Letcher County Sheriff's Office. And she voluntarily gave her phone to the person that interviewed her.
Okay, and just out of curiosity, could you explain why that was relevant or germane to your investigation?
I didn't conduct that interview, but it was, I guess it was regarding the dinner at Streetside and things that led up to
Dinner?
to the shooting.
You mean lunch?
I don't have those results either, so I don't know exactly what was said.
Correct me if I'm wrong. I thought when we discussed that earlier that you indicated there was no evidence that the conversations at the lunch.
I haven't seen those conversations yet. I've not received the downloads from the phone.
Right, but I asked you if you're aware of any information that could have been gleaned from witnesses at that meeting, and as I recall, you said no, but there is some information that something was discussed at this lunch. Is that correct?
I don't know what was discussed at lunch.
I understand, but you obtained this lady that we don't know her name, you obtained her phone in an effort or based on a belief that she would be able to demonstrate what was said at lunch. So you would agree with me, you believe that there is a witness or information that may have popped up at lunch.
There's a recorded interview with her in the case, and I'm yet to receive the downloads of the phone, so I don't know what they contain.
Okay, well, officer, that's all I have. Thank you.
Redirect. Questions? Has Judge Mullins, he's sent to medical examiner's office for autopsy.
He was.
Have you received that report yet?
No.
Have you had an informal conversation with him regarding his cause of death?
Yes.
And what was that?
Multiple gunshot wounds.
The video we showed earlier, that a true and accurate clip copy of what you received?
Yes.
Councilman introduced Council Exhibit number 1, Your Honor.
Any objection?
Your Honor, I'd ask, of course, all we saw today was the clip, but I ask it be admitted in its entirety, Your Honor, as an exhibit.
You want to respond to that?
Judge, I don't think preliminary hearing is required for its probable cause. This statute of probable cause, I think the entire clip is outside the purview of these proceedings today.
Want to see the whole video? Should have objected earlier. I'll admit the short clip. Yeah, I'll have the clerk enter that as exhibit number 1.
You should have objected to the full video earlier, he said.
And Detective, is this an ongoing investigation?
Yes, it is.
And as this ongoing investigation proceeds, you will be obviously interviewing more people if necessary, submitting more evidence to the lab?
Yes.
That's all I have, Your Honor.
Recross.
All right. Any other witnesses for the Commonwealth?
No further, Your Honor.
All right. You may step down. Any witnesses for the defendant? I'll find probable cause and bind this case over the grand jury. Anything else? Anything else before we adjourn court?
Yeah, sure. There's no, we're not allowed to sum up, Judge, what.
Oh, if you want to make an argument, sure.
It sounds like I mean, I may change your mind, Judge.
It is a probable cause hearing, so, but yes.
I understand.
Take your best shot.
Thank you, Your Honor. Well, so, murder under our statute, as the court knows, and I'm not telling you anything you don't know, but if there is an issue as to extreme emotional disturbance, then there has to be some evidence that would rebut that. And specifically, when I asked the witness today if there was any evidence to rebut that this occurred as a direct result in the moment of this observation of the phone, they have none at this point. And I get it's just probable cause, but I think they've established probable cause for manslaughter first, but not murder. Because I've heard nothing that indicates that this is not, an example of an extreme emotional disturbance relative to the phone.
So he's pretty much saying that the sheriff is being overcharged. Yeah, he killed the judge. It shows it on video, but it was under different circumstances. That doesn't fall into lines of murder. So he's trying to get this thing kind of thrown out or fixed or lowered right here in preliminary, or at least build it up a bit so he can do something later on down the road. Believe it or not, people get overcharged all the time and they beat it completely.
At any rate, Judge, respectfully, I understand the court's previous ruling, but I did want to address that with you.
No, that's fine. Let
Thank you, Your Honor.
the Commonwealth respond.
Thank you, Your Honor. Chairman Marshall's purpose is a defense. There's not been a defense presented here to this court today. The evidence presented to this court today is that the judge was intentionally shot and killed, shot multiple times by the sheriff, and there's probable cause to find the grand jury murder charge.
Yeah, I agree. There's probable cause to proceed as murder.
Yes, sir.
All right. Anything else before we adjourn court today?
Your Honor, in terms of, we'd like to discuss, if we could, lodging from here and where he's transported. Is it the court's intention to have him take, and I don't want to discuss that potentially publicly, Your Honor?
I'm not sure I can help you on that.
Well, there you have it, ladies and gentlemen. It looks like his attorney's asking for a little bit of PC before they leave the courtroom. Protective custody. And look, keep this in mind. I've tried to find stories of former officers getting hurt in jail or prison. Look, they're protected for the most part. I mean, probably like 99.9%. They're going to be just dandy. But I'm really looking forward to this trial. There's still so many unanswered questions. As for me, I'm still sticking with the 2 cents that I already painted for you. He caught the judge doing something inappropriate with his daughter, and he fixed the situation how he wanted to. The only thing that's kind of steering me away from that is what the detective said about him thinking that his wife and daughter were going to get kidnapped. That's something totally different that I wouldn't have expected. So who knows what's going to happen? Everything's going to come out, and I'll be bringing it your way as soon as it does. But I'm out of here, ladies and gentlemen. Stay tuned. I got plenty more content coming your way. As always, in the meantime, y'all be easy, be safe, and more importantly than anything, stay free.